Good morning to everyone. Um, we have finished yung chapter 2 on the meiosis and mitosis part. Let's start another chapter wherein I will be discussing yung gene segregation and interaction na tinatawag. So, um, in this video, I will start with the laws of Mendel. So, kasi doon sa law of segregation at saka yung law of independent assortment, particularly doon sa laws na yun. So, matatandaan na si Gregor Mendel, um, siya yung parang diniscuss natin sa chapter 1 wherein he was recognized as the father of genetics and that he worked on common garden peas. So, yun. So, yung mga results niya doon sa work niya, doon sa Common Garden Peace, doon siya kumuha ng parang yung mga results niya doon siya nag-formulate nitong mga law of segregation and law of independent assortment na tinatawag. So, before I start kung ano nga ba yung mga law of segregation, law of independent assortment, um, I will explain muna itong dominant and recessive allele, dominant and recessive gene na tinatawag. Kasi kailangan yung malaman kung ano ang mga to para alam natin mamaya, para hindi tayo malito mamaya do sa ibang topics. So, itong alleles can be dominant or recessive na tinatawag. So, an allele is one or of two or more version of a gene. So, an individual inherits two alleles for each gene, one from each parent. So, as you can see in the diagram, ito isang allele to. And then, ito isang allele. So, ang mangyayari yan, you inherit one allele from your mother and then you inherit one allele from your father. So um, ito yung mga pwedeng kalalabasan ng mga allele nyo or yung gene nyo. So pwedeng pwedeng ganito, yung isa pwedeng ganito, and then pwedeng ganito. So bakit nga ba magkakaiba yung mga may capital letter, may small letter, may capital letter? I will explain later. Basta ang tandaan is when we say allele, one of two or more versions of a gene. So basta yung tandaan doon, yung allele na yun, nakukuha yung isa from the mother and then nakukuha yung isa from the father. So, ito, ito yung para mas malaking ano nung diagram para makita natin. So, ito, like for example, itong isang allele na to from your mother at tapos itong allele na to from your father, pag krinos mo sila, magiging ganito sila. So, ano nga ba itong homozygous AA, heterozygous A, small capital A, small letter A, homozygous small letter A. So, um, we have here what we call as the dominant allele. So when we say dominant allele, shows their effect even if the individual only has one copy of that allele. So usually it connotes a capital letter, capital letter. So when we say dominant allele, kahit na iisa lang yung allele na yon doon sa gene, it will express itself pa rin. Kahit iisa lang. So, it usually connotes a capital letter A. So, parang ganito. Then, so for the recessive alleles only show their effect if the individual has two copies of that allele. So, makikita mo lang yung effect ng allele na yon, yung recessive allele, yung um, if dalawa sila or if magkaparehong recessive yung allele na yun doon sa gene. So, doon mo lang siya makikita na makikita yung effect ng recessive allele. Unlike yung dominant allele na kahit isa lang yung dominant doon sa gene, makikita po pa rin yung effect niya. So, usually, yung recessive allele, it connotes a small letter. Yung sa dominant allele, it connotes a capital letter. So, this is considered as a dominant allele since it connotes a capital letter. This is considered as a recessive allele since it connotes a small letter. So, ano nga ba ito mga to? Homozygous, heterozygous, homozygous. So, ang ano lang yan is if it is homozygous, yung dalawang allele doon sa gene is parehong dominant or parehong recessive. So, sasabihin mong homozygous yung gene na yun if yung allele that are present there are parehong dominant or parehong recessive. So, as you can see here, pareho silang dominant. So, homozygous sila. Then, as you can see here, dito sa isa, pareho silang recessive, so homozygous sila. So, yun lang. Basta pag homozygous, yung allele doon sa gene, yung mga allele, yung dalawang allele doon sa gene ay magkapareho. Pwedeng both are dominant, pwedeng both are recessive. Basta dapat magkapareho sila, yung dalawang allele doon sa gene. Pag namang heterozygous na tinatawag, yung isang allele doon sa gene is dominant, while yung isang allele doon sa gene is recessive. So, as you can see here, itong isa, dominant allele siya, and then yung isa, recessive allele siya. So, it is considered as heterozygous. Ito rin. So, ito, recessive allele siya, and then ito, dominant allele siya, so it is considered as heterozygous since magkaiba sila. So yun, inuulit ko, basta when we say homozygous, pag homozygous, dapat magkapareho yung allele doon sa gene. So pwedeng dominant sila magkapareho or pwedeng recessive sila. Pag naman heterozygous, yung isang allele dominant, yung isang allele recessive. So yun yung pagkakaiba. Pag tinanong ko kayo kung homozygous or heterozygous, alam na ninyo yung pagkakaiba. So, based on the definition ng dominant allele and recessive allele. So, yung example natin na lang is yung dominant allele, it will express yung brown eyes. Sa color ng eyes tayo. So, yung dominant allele, it will express yung brown color ng mata natin, while yung recessive allele, it will express yung blue color ng mata natin. So, based on the definition ng dominant allele and recessive allele, for the example number 1, itong part na to, since both sila is dominant, both ng allele doon sa gene for eye color is dominant, then, tapos yung sinabi kong yung dominant allele will express yung brown color, then this will result to brown color rin, since pareho silang dominant. And then, we have here, sa heterozygous naman, may isang gene that will dictate yung color ng mata mo is brown. Yung isang gene naman, yung recessive gene, it will dictate na yung mata mo is magiging blue color, pero based doon sa definition natin ng dominant allele, kahit isa lang yung dominant allele doon sa gene, ma-express pa rin. So, yung kalalabasan pa rin nito is brown eyes, kasi may dominant ka pa rin. Same with here, yung isang allele, it will express, yung recessive allele, it will express yung blue eyes, yung dominant allele sa isa, it will express yung brown eyes. Pero since may dominant allele ka pa rin, then yung kalalabasan pa rin ng mata is brown eyes. Kasi dominant pa rin. Then, ito namang example number 4. both nung allele are recessive. So, as the definition implies, recessive alleles only show their effect if the individual has two copies of the allele. So, ma-express lang yung effect ng recessive allele if dalawa sila, pareho silang nandoon sa gene. So, as you can see on the example number 4, yung isang allele, recessive gene that will express yung blue color ng mata. Yung isa, recessive gene rin that will express yung blue color ng mata. So, since pareho silang recessive, then yung kalalabasan ng mata will be blue eyes. So, yun lang yung dominant and recessive allele na tinatawag. So, I hope na gets ninyo. Basta pag sinasabing dominant, kahit isa lang, pwedeng dalawa, if dalawang dominant, sure bull na yung ine-express ng dominant allele, makikita mo. If naman isa lang, yung dominant allele, makikita mo pa rin. Pero pag wala ng dominant allele, tapos recessive allele na lang yung dalawa, then yung ma-express is yung recessive allele. So, yun lang yung explanation nun. And then, alam nyo na to, homozygous, heterozygous, homozygous. Homozygous, magkapareho yung allele. Pwedeng dominant, pwedeng recessive, both. Pag heterozygous, yung isang allele, dominant, yung isang allele, recessive. So, yun yung pagkakaiba. So, I hope na you are able to understand since medyo malilito kayo doon sa succeeding topics pag hindi nyo na intindihan yung homozygous, heterozygous, at saka yung dominant and recessive allele. So, feel free to rewind, feel free to go back again to this explanation para maintindihan nyo if medyo nalilito pa kayo, and then feel free to go on the internet and read about itong mga dominant and recessive allele na tinatawag. So let's go back to Mendel and yung sa experiment niya. So there were 7 traits studied by Gregor Mendel. So namely, seed shape, pwedeng round or wrinkled, seed color, pwedeng yellow or green, flower color, pwedeng purple and white, pod shape, pwedeng inflated or constricted, and then pod color, pwedeng yellow or green. So yun yung mga traits na in-study ni Mendel doon sa pea plant niya. So, in the study of Mendel, he crossed or hybridized 2 varieties showing alternative traits. So, pwedeng tall and short, pwedeng round or wrinkled. So, yun yung ginawa ni Mendel. So, those 7 traits were tested individually by hybridizing. So, yung 2 varieties. That will show yung alternative trait. So, pwede nga yung tall versus short, pwede yung yellow and green, pwede yung round and wrinkled, and so on and so forth. So, the parental plant or yung tinatawag natin P or P generation were from pure breeding lines or varieties and therefore homozygous for that specific trait. Since yung mga crinus niya na mga parent plants, yung mga parental plants, yung P generation, pure breeding sila. So when we say pure breeding, walang ibang gene, walang pure lang yung gene na makikita mo doon. So meaning if it is pure breeding line, then homozygous sila. So matatandaan yung homozygous, pareho yung allele doon sa gene, magkapareho sila. So, pwedeng magkaparehong dominant, pwedeng magkaparehong recessive. So, yun yung laging tatandaan. Doon sa study ni Mendel, doon sa P, yung mga parental parents, yung mga krinos niya na una na mga pea plants, they are all from pure breeding lines. Homozygous lahat sila. So, yung isa, for example, ito, yung isang parent plant, round siya, pure na round. And then yung isa, wrinkle. Tapos yung kinalabasan, all round lahat. So, meaning, isa sa mga to is dominant, isa dito is recessive. So, since yung na-express doon sa mga anak ng parent plant is all round, meaning itong round na to, this is the dominant one, and then yung wrinkled, this is the recessive one. So, uh, yun yung explanation kung bakit all round lahat yung nakita niya. Okay, inuulit ko. Since purebred lahat to, when we say pure breeding, homozygous lahat, homozygous yung mga parent plant, then, and then, one of its experiment, si Mendel, krinos niya yung round na pea plant doon sa wrinkled na pea plant, and then yung kinalabasan is all around lahat sila based on the definition of dominant allele. It can express itself kahit isa lang yung dominant allele doon sa gene. So, meaning, itong all around na to, this is the dominant trait. So, meaning, ito yung dominant, ito yung wrinkle. Now, itong all around na to, krinos mo sila sa isa't isa, and then, nakapag-produce ka ng round and wrinkle. So, bakit nga ba? Eh, di ba sinasabi natin na yung all round is dominant? So, bakit nakapag-produce ka ngayon ng wrinkle? Bale, yung ginawa kasi is nag-cross sila ng round and wrinkle. So, bale, yung mga all round na yun, some of, yung first filial generation na yun, hindi na sila homozygous. Heterozygous na sila. Kasi, dalawa na yung, magkaiba na yung allele eh. Meron siyang dominant at saka meron siyang recessive na allele na. Kasi pinag-cross mo na sila eh. Hindi na sila homozygous. Homozygous sila if yung pinag-cross mo is purebred na round and then purebred na round rin. Since dominant sila pareho. Pero kasi yung pinag-cross mo is isang dominant at saka isang recessive. So yung kalalabasan ng mga first filial generation natin is heterozygous na. May yung isang allele doon sa gene na is dominant at saka yung isang allele doon sa gene is recessive. Pero since may dominant pa rin, yung expression pa rin ng first filial generation natin is all around lahat pa rin sila kasi may dominant pa rin. So, bakit dito sa second filial generation or yung second generation ng mga pea plant, pag krinos mo itong F1 generation with each other, eh, may lumalabas na wrinkle. Kasi dito sa F1 generation, may recessive gene ka na. So I will explain further kung bakit may lumalabas na wrinkle, pero yung underlying explanation nun is that dito sa F1, may recessive gene na. So may lalabas at may lalabas pa rin na recessive if i-cross mo sila sa isa't isa. Kaya may round and wrinkle doon sa second generation ng mga pea plant. So, ito yung parang summary nung anong tawag nito? Mga crosses ni Mendel. So, doon sa trait na flower color, pinag-cross niya yung purple and white. And then, yung F1 generation, yung nakita niya, all purple. So, meaning, itong purple color na to, this is the dominant trait, while yung white color is yung recessive trait. And then, itong all purple trait na to, pinag-cross niya sa isa't isa ulit. Then, yung second generation na, may lumabas na na white, which is yun na yung recessive. Same with yung seed color, yellow and green. Yung pinag-cross niya, yung lumabas, lahat ay yellow. So meaning, itong yellow na to, this is the dominant trait for seed color, while itong green, this is the recessive trait of na seed color. And then, itong all yellow dito sa first generation na mga pea plant, pinag-cross niya sa isa't isa, and then ito yung lumabas, may lumabas na green, which is yun na yung recessive. So yun. So, all of these, itong parental phenotype, all of these are homozygous. Homozygous dominant na purple color, and then homozygous recessive na white color. Pero dito sa F1 offspring traits na, yung all purple na pea plant na yun, heterozygous na. May, yung allele niya, may isa doon is dominant trait for purple color, kaya yun yung nakikita mo. Pero yung isang allele niya ay recessive na for yung white color. Kaya pag krinos mo sila sa isa't isa, meron pa ring lalabas na recessive gene pag krinos mo ulit sila sa isa't isa. So yun yung explanation niya. So for the summary of Mendel's result, for any character, the first filial or yung first generation natin showed one of the alternative traits. So yun yung nakita niya na like for example, round and wrinkled. Then yung first generation showed yung isa sa mga traits na yun. So yung nakita niya is all round. So such character that was shown was dominant, and the character that was hidden was recessive. So yun yung summary niya doon sa study niya. Na nakita niya na lahat nung sa first generation is round lahat yung nakita niya. So sinasabi niya na yung round na yun, it is dominant, while yung hindi nakita na wrinkled, yun yung recessive. So yung reciprocal crosses gave the same result. So when we say reciprocal cross, it is a mating strategy, which means to make crosses between a pair of parents by using them in turn as a female parent and male parent. So, bale, like for example, itong round na to is yung lalaki, yung male parent. Yung wrinkled is yung female parent. Yung na-produce nila is all round. Now, sa reciprocal cross, binaliktad mo. Itong round na to is yung female parent na, and then yung wrinkled is yung male parent. Ganon pa rin yung result, all round pa rin. So yun yung reciprocal crosses gave the same result. Kahit pag baliktarin mo pa yung male and female, kahit yung round mo is male and then yung wrinkled is female, all round pa rin yung lalabas. Pag yung round mo is female, yung wrinkled mo is male, all around pa rin yung lalabas. So yun yung sinasabi doon sa reciprocal crosses. It will give the same result. Now, another one of its summary is that trait that did not appear in the F1 reappeared in the second generation, but in a frequency of 1/4 of the total number. So, yung mga traits daw, so like for example, yung round and wrinkled natin, di ba? Doon sa first generation, all around lahat yung nakita ni Mendel. Yung summary niya is that yung trait na did not appear in the first generation, in our example, itong wrinkled, reappeared in the second generation, but in a frequency of 1/4 of the total number. So 1/4 lang ng total number ng offspring doon sa second generation is nagpapagitan nitong wrinkled. Basta yung summary niya is that yung hindi nakita na trait doon sa first generation, makikita mo siya doon sa second generation. So ito, like for example, yung seed texture, round and wrinkled, First generation, all around. Second generation, 1/4 lang yung nakita mong wrinkled na. So, yun yung summary niya. So, from the observations, it was deduced that each parent must have contributed equally to the progeny. So, parang equal pa rin yung um, contribution ng mga parents kahit sabihin natin na yung nakikita mo lang is yung trait na nanggaling sa isang parent, pero in reality meron pa ring ambag yung isang parent. So as you can see here, yung parent generation natin is pure breed. Homozygous sila, homozygous dominant and homozygous recessive. Sa first filial generation natin, ganito yung kalalabasan. Heterozygous na kasi pinag-cross mo sila eh. Ito yung gamit. Dominant na R, dominant na round seed, recessive for wrinkled seed. So, yung kalalabasan ng first filial generation mo is round seed na heterozygous. Pero nandun yung recessive. Makikita mo doon yung recessive. Pero since may dominant siya, yung may express pa rin is yung round seed. Now, sa second filial generation naman, krinos mo yung, we have here yung female gametes. Since yung first filial generation natin, heterozygous na, so meron siyang dominant na allele at saka recessive na allele. Same with the male gametes. Since we cross it with itself, yung male gametes, mayroon siyang dominant na allele and then may recessive na allele. So if you cross this female, R at saka R, then yung ma-express is round. Same with the recessive R at saka dominant R, yung ma-express pa rin is round, pero heterozygous na siya. And then, yung R, dominant R at saka yung recessive R, ang may express pa rin is round, pero heterozygous na siya. And then, yung recessive R, krinos mo doon sa recessive R, yung may express na ngayon is wrinkled kasi yung cross mo is dalawang recessive. So, yun yung, merong equal contribution pa rin yung mga parents. So, ganito na yung genotypic ratio. So, may isa kang homozygous dominant na R, meron kang dalawang heterozygous dominant na R, and then, meron kang homozygous recessive na R. May isa kang homozygous recessive na R. So, yung ratio, genotypic ratio niya is 1 is to 1 is to 2 is to 1. Pero yung phenotypic ratio, yun yung makikita mo, yung trait na makikita mo. So, may tatlo kang round, isa, dalawa, tatlo, and then may isa kang wrinkled. So, isa. So, yung phenotypic ratio mo is 3 is to 1. So, yun yung summary ng Mendel's result. So, with that, bakit nga ba ganon yung nangyari? So, sa law of segregation niya ni Mendel, the unit of hereditary characters occurs in pairs, and that in the formation of gametes during meiosis, this separates from each other so that only one member of the pair goes into a particular gamete. So, sa meiosis, di ba, magse-separate itong mga to into individual gametes. Parang ganyan. So, yun yung isang law ni Mendel. Yung characters that occurs in pair during meiosis will separate from each other so that only one member of the pair goes into the particular gamete. So, nagse-separate sila into each other. So, it is important to take note that segregation is random. So, random yung pagsesegregate. So, it is parang chance lang, and in law of segregation, it is has a great role in determining which of the gametes receive the dominant or the recessive allele. So, in simpler terms, law of segregation means that the members of the gene pair, say this dominant R and then this recessive R, separate or segregate into gametes formed by an individual such that yung half will carry one member of the gene pair and the half will carry the other. So yun yung law of segregation. Nagsesegregate yung mga genes natin. So each gamete carries only one allele for seed shape because the alleles have segregated during meiosis. So yun. Kaya isang allele ay yung gamete na isa only carries one allele for seed shape. Sa isa naman, only one allele ulit for seed shape. Then sa isa, only one allele for seed shape, and then yung isa, only one allele for seed shape. Nagsesegregate sila. And then when we say law of independent assortment, Mendel's law of independent assortment states that the alleles of two or more different genes get sorted into gametes independently of one another. In other words, the allele a gamete received for one gene does not influence the allele received from another gene. So, independent sila sa isa't isa. Yung mga alleles na yun, they are independent from each other. Walang influence yung allele na yun doon sa isang allele. Walang influence kung bakit yung isang allele ganito yung na-pair sa kanya, walang ganon. So they are independent from each other. So the principle of independent assortment describes how different genes independently separate from one another when reproductive cells develop. So during meiosis, the pair of homologous chromosomes are divided into half to form yung haploid cell, di ba? And this separation or assortment of homologous chromosome is random. So, as you can see on the diagram, di ba in this segregation, na-segregate na to into allele, into different allele. In independent assortment, walang influence kung ano yung ma-pair up doon. So, pwedeng yellow round, pwedeng green round, pwedeng yellow wrinkled, pwedeng green wrinkled. So, walang influence yung isa't isa. Walang influence yung mga alleles for different traits sa mga sa alleles for different traits. So, bale, basta wala parang walang pakialam, walang influence yung isa't isa. So, pwedeng yung yellow, yung mape-pair up sa kanya na trait is round or pwedeng wrinkled. Same with doon sa green color. Yung mape-pair up sa kanya pwedeng round, pwedeng wrinkled. So walang rule na nagsasabi na if yung allele ko is it will dictate green, yung mape-pair up sa akin dapat round lang. So walang ganun. So independent assortment lang. One gene does not influence the allele received for another gene. So walang influence na nangyayari. So ito yung parang summary nung ano ni Mendel. So by meiosis, through segregation, and then through independent nagsegregate itong mga to, and then through independent assortment naging ganito, and then pag klinos niya, ito yung mga kalalabasan. So, let's take for example ito. Yung dominant R natin will be the round shape ng seed. Yung dominant Y natin will be the yellow color. And then yung recessive R natin will be the wrinkled shape ng seed, and then yung recessive Y natin will be the green color. Now, if we cross this with each other, ito yung kalalabasan. So, dominant R, cross mode with dominant R, ito yung kalalabasan. Both are dominant R. And then, yung dominant Y, you cross it with the dominant Y, ito yung kalalabasan. Parehong dominant Y. Same with here. Yung dominant R, i-cross mo doon sa dominant R, parehong dominant yung kalalabasan. Yung recessive Y, i-cross mo doon sa dominant Y, magiging heterozygous na. Yung isa dominant, yung isa recessive. Now, dito naman, yung recessive R, i-cross mo doon sa dominant R, magiging heterozygous. Yung dominant Y, i-cross mo doon sa dominant Y, magiging homozygous dominant siya. Parehong dominant Y. Yung recessive Y, recessive R, i-cross mo doon sa dominant R, ganito yung kalalabasan. Isang dominant, isang recessive. Yung dominant Y, i-cross mo doon sa yung recessive Y, i-cross mo doon sa dominant Y, yung kalalabasan, isang dominant Y at saka isang recessive Y. Same here dito sa part na to. Yung dominant R, i-cross mo doon sa dominant R, yung kalalabasan, dalawang dominant R. Yung dominant Y, i-cross mo doon sa recessive Y, yung kalalabasan, heterozygous, isa is dominant Y, isa is recessive Y. Now, here, dominant R, ito yung kalalabasan, pareho. Recessive Y, at saka recessive Y, krinos mo yung kalalabasan, dalawang recessive na Y. Then, yung dominant R, ay recessive R, krinos mo doon sa dominant R, ito yung kalalabasan. Same with the Y. So, yun yung pattern na pag-cross. So, I hope na you will be able to do it. I hope that you will able to understand. So, ganun yung pattern. So, here you have yung female, here you have yung male. I-cross mo lang sila. Ganyan. Ganyan, nandyan. Diyan mo ilalagay. Itong second one, tsaka ito, dito mo siya ilalagay. Yan, at tsaka yan dito. So, ganun lang mag-fill up. Ito pala is tinatawag na Punnett square. So, ang silbi nito para makita natin yung genotypic ratio at saka yung phenotypic ratio ng mga crinocross natin. So, yung summary nito, itong cross natin dito, itong mga pinag-cross natin dito, ito na. So, ito yung summary ng crosses na ginawa natin. So, ganito rin yung gagawin ninyo sa lab exercise ninyo. So, i-indicate ninyo yung genotypic ratio, parang ganito, and then isa-summarize nyo dito sa part na to. Kung ano yung 1, so ganyan yung gagawin. Ano yung 2, ganyan yung isusulat, parang ganun. So, yun yung gagawin ninyo sa lab exercise ninyo. So, for the genotypic ratio, nung krinos natin, that is 1 is to 2 is to 1 is to 2 is to 4 is to 2 is to 1 is to 2 is to 1. And then, ito yung summary nun. So, yung isa, yung 1, meron ka nung dominant R, homozygous dominant R, and then homozygous dominant Y. Then, yung 1 is to 2, yung 2, homozygous dominant R, and then heterozygous Y. And then, yung 1 na yun, homozygous dominant R, and then homozygous recessive Y. So, yun yung gagawin. And then, for its phenotypic ratio, that is 9 is to 3 is to 3 is to 1. So, bakit 9 is to 3 is to 3 is to 1? Since yung isa, round siya, and then yellow, kasi dominant pareho. And then, may dalawang round, and then may yellow kahit heterozygous, pero may dominant pa rin, kaya yellow pa rin. Same with here. Dalawang round siya na heterozygous pero dominant pa rin, so round pa rin, and then yellow. Same with here. So, 1 plus 2 plus 2 plus 4, it is equal to 9. And then, ganun rin sa iba. So, ganito yung gagawin, ganito yung sa output ninyo sa lab exercise ninyo, which I will give later. So, magcro-cross kayo and then isa-summarize ninyo yung genotypic ratio and then yung phenotypic ratio. So, with that, that ends my video lecture for today. So, please go over it. Please go over this video lecture kasi you will use this for your lab exercise. So, thank you for listening.